What's up, everybody? This is episode 9 here of Just Talking Sports. We are stationed, as you see right there, or listening. This is Clarksville's 91.9 WAPX-FM Clarksville. And also, you can check us out on YouTube at APSU-TV. My name is Marcus Modey. My partners, Gabe Jones, Patton Cook. Let's go ahead and get right into it because we're going to talk. We got a lot of quality content here early on. So we're going to talk about Austin Peay first because they was on the road this past week, and the girls split games. The men's actually dropped both games, which are now in second place. I wanted to talk more about the guys because those two losses was not when they needed it really the most.
Yeah, and right as I guess you could call it, the hype was starting to roll in, not only Clarksville radio, but also I was listening to some national radio stations, and they were really starting to pump up Austin Peay and even ESPN. We had a ESPN highlight of our games that we produced. They had it on live. Just a tough way to drop two games that could really cement yourself as really a front runner, especially after Murray State dropped a game against Belmont. So you had an opportunity there to build a one-game lead going into the Belmont, giving yourselves a little bit of a wiggle room because Belmont was always going to be a tough game.
Absolutely. And dropping a game to a team, I don't want to disrespect, no disrespect, but dropping a game to a team like TSU, whenever you're trying to fight for those top spots, you want to get the best seeding possible so you can go through the tournament as easy as possible. But, every game is going to be a tough game. So whenever you're getting that recognition, like we said, we even popped up on ESPN. Whenever you get big-time recognition like that, you got to nut up or shut up.
And also, that's a great point because now after you kept winning games, you went 10-0 in the conference. Everybody's looking at you. That's
pressure.
Yes, exactly. There's going to be a lot of pressure where you can't just slack off on certain games. And at home, you see the confidence a little bit, but on the road sometimes in these games, they get a little shell-shocked of themselves, and that pressure gets to them a little bit, and then sometimes they just be struggling with the depth that they have.
And I believe it was either Jacksonville State or SEMO where they dropped down, 15 points going into the first half, and just their talent alone led them to coming back. Here, they've kind of fell into some deficits, and they haven't been able to roar back because against Belmont, let's face it, it's going to be awfully tough to come back from double digits, and they ultimately had to do that and couldn't pull it out. But at the end of the day, I'd like to give a shout-out, even though they've lost some of these games. I thought Terry Taylor he can't face much blame at all because he's been facing double teams and triple teams, especially when he's down the post, which I think he always knew that was going to come, but it's kind of came here now, and he's got to adjust to it because that's in the scouting report now. You've seen Tennessee State and Belmont kind of effectively get Terry off his rhythm, and he's got to kind of make an adjustment to it, but he still hasn't played that bad at all to his credit. I think over 20 points in both the losses.
He had a double-double in both games. He had 26 points and 23 boards against Belmont, and then he went 23 and 14 against TSU. But the co-star, Jordan Adams, he had a little struggling for these two games. Actually, he was combined 10 of 40 from three in these past two games. I want to ask you guys, do you start to see that freshman slump? Is it coming now? Because, sometimes throughout the year as a freshman, if you are getting the looks like Jordan Adams is getting, sometimes you can have those hot streaks, but you can hit some of those cold streaks as well. Do you think it's happening right now?
Well, whenever it comes to any sport, consistency is key. Whether you're going to give a consistent, 10 points a night, or whether you're going to be a star and give a consistent 20 points a night. With Jordan, the two games before these last two games, I believe he dropped 30 in back-to-back games. So whenever you do that and then come in and not really give the team much except for misses, your team, how does your team adjust to that? Is key.
And it was always going to be tough to kind of hold up to that 30-point-plus game. I think he had 35 going into the half. You did that game, Marcus, and just anything he put up was going in. And that was never really going to be there. But the thing that I personally wanted to see was these two games. How would he do if he struggled? How would the confidence go? To his credit, he still threw them up there. They just weren't going in. So I think this homestand that he's got coming up against Murray and also Eastern Kentucky, we're going to find a lot about Jordan on how much he trusts his shot and how much he trusts his teammates. And if his shots aren't falling, does he maybe pass it along maybe to Terry a little bit more? So that'll be something I'll be looking forward to these next 2 games.
When Jordan Adams is hot, he's one of the best in the conference. In that game you was talking about, he had 35. He had 28 at halftime.
Unbelievable.
And he was knocking down everything. But one thing that I noticed as I was commentating these games, because I was commentating on ESPN Plus, Jordan, he's going to take his shots. And a lot of his shots are tough shots, just plain and simple. Sometimes they fall in, sometimes they not. In these past 2 games, they really haven't fallen for him. But you want your guy to continue to be aggressive, because if he gets conservative, that helps out the defense and it helps out the scouting team, because he's like, okay, he went 3 of 10 here. So if he knows he's missing shots, he's going to continue just passing it. He's not going to look aggressive. But sometimes if you are Jordan, you might not want to take the most difficult shot. You might want to just try to get to the cup like he's trying to do. That, I think that's another thing. Once the teams realize that he's getting cold, they just know that he wants to attack to the basket. And then that's where those offensive fouls happen. That's where those bad turnovers happen, because they're stripping it from behind. He just got to let the game come to him. And I think that's one thing he's been doing throughout the season, is just especially when the cold streaks. That's the one thing for his development, learning letting the game come to him, even when you're missing shots, can help him out, and even the governors moving forward.
Indeed. Well, whenever your main players are struggling, like we said, TT is seeing double and triple teams, you're going to need somebody else to step up. And if Jordan Adams is having a bad game, then you will need your other players to step up. So I'd like to see, I guess, a little bit more from, everyone. Everyone just will have to, make plays.
And Eli Abayev, I thought, has done a decent job stepping into a little bit of a bigger role here recently. He's taken more shots to where before he would just kind of pass it up to Terry, but now he's starting to be assertive with the ball, and I've really enjoyed that. And then one final thing on Jordan is I've always kind of enjoyed looking at Coach Figger whenever he takes some of these shots and he's making it, and he's like not really liking it. But here, when he's missing these shots, he hasn't really been getting on to Jordan, because I think Coach Figger knows he's going to make some of these sooner rather than later, so no need to kind of harp on him. He knows what he needs to do. So I've kind of enjoyed that little element from Coach Figger that we don't see very often from him, a more of a softer, understanding side. But it's been interesting to see that those two kind of play off of each other.
Well, one thing to know for sure is Coach Figger is going to be on maybe 20 in this upcoming game on Thursday, because they play the rival, somebody that he hasn't beat yet since he's came to Austin Peay. They play Murray State, who is number 1 in the Ohio Valley Conference right now. The Governor's sitting at 2. Thursday is going to be on ESPNU, I believe, where another big game, just like last year. Ja Morant was here at Austin Peay. Murray State picked up a win, and a close win, a nail-biter. But Ja's not there, but somebody else is there right behind him, and that's Tevin Brown. He is a bucket.
And I don't know if this will come to fruition, but I'm hoping and praying. Dickie V, come down to Clarksville. I think it's time. You grace this campus. I think he'd be amazing. The students, that'd get the students.
I got
out.
a better one, Jay Billis.
Or Jay Billis he's high rolling now. He's with the Dukes. Dickie V kind of has taken a little more of a step back, but I think last year we had Seth Greenberg. He came down and.
But who wouldn't like Jay Billis here in Clarksville?
I totally agree, but me personally, a legend of the game. I don't know how much longer Dickie V is going to be doing broadcasting. He seems to still be loving it, which is just something all three of us can hope that at that age we're still loving what we're doing, and that's exactly what Dickie V is. But this game Thursday, it's not going to have the exact hype that it had last year with Ja Morant, but in terms of the two teams, I think it's a little bit closer, the two teams. So we should have an even better game than what we had last year, which turned out to be, I think if I remember correctly, we had a chance to tie it at the buzzer, and we did score, but
it was late.
The buzzer went off.
That was Steve. It was Steve Harris on that put back. I was sitting there on the press row, just knew immediately on his fingertips. It hurt a lot of fans, because it was going to be overtime, and that was the one time I will say for sure that uproar of him making that putback
That was the
I've never-
loudest I've ever heard.
I've never had that feeling at Austin Peay until that moment.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game all the way through, and then up until the end where I believe, didn't Zach Galata put up the
Yeah.
shot, and then Button
No, it was Steve. Steve had
was
got the rebound and then went back up,
Steve,
but
yeah.
it was just
on the fingertips.
on the fingertips.
Yeah, the
But-
millisecond.
One person, like I said, Tevin Brown is to look out for. Tevin Brown versus Jordan Adams. They're going to go at it throughout the whole night. But also KJ Williams for Murray State is another person to look out for the Racers. He might be going against Abayev, but sometimes as of late, I've noticed personally that Terry has been getting that big assignment against the big men. So it might be KJ Williams versus Terry Taylor. But KJ is averaging 18. Let me find it real quick. No, 15 and 7 in conference play, while Tevin Brown is scoring 20 on 50% shooting in conference.
And to me, if Terry is going to start getting some of these big guys on him, if I'm Coach Figure, I'm not putting him on the block. I'm having him trail at the very end at the 3-point line, because the handles Terry has for his size can really cause problems for some of these centers. So it just, for me, I'd like to see Terry attack a little bit more from the perimeter inside instead of backing down to where it gives teams a chance to double and triple team you, and then you're scrambling to try and find the open man. But just the matchup between Terry, it's been different, to be fair to all these OVC teams. They've threw something different at him each and every night.
One thing I want to ask you guys, because you know that's the Battle of the Border rivalry has been going on for quite some time. But I've noticed in these 4 years that I've been here, it seems like Austin Peay plays a little bit differently against Murray State than any other team. Do you guys really see that happening on Thursday? Because everybody knows this is a big game. They can have a chance to go back in the first place, but will that play a role?
Usually in rivalry games, your star always shows up for any game, but usually you see those other guys perk up for the rivalry game. So I'm excited to see both teams play. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and a lot of the times you see it, form really goes out the window in some of these games, especially for, you got to say it, for Austin Peay. They don't really play in these sort of atmospheres very much. Now, Murray, from all the games I've watched online, most of their games are filled, and most of Austin Peay's lower bowl is filled, but the upper bowl is not. So this is a different atmosphere that really only Terry Taylor and Antoine Butler have kind of experienced. And that'll be something we'll look at for some of these freshmen like Paez and Woodard as well, who's played very well. So we'll see how these freshmen kind of acclimate to the temperature, shall we say, on Thursday.
That pressure will be building up, and hopefully for the freshmen, they are at home. They always got the fans rally behind them, but they got to realize also it's going to be the Murray fans on the other side. They only about, is it an hour and 25, Joe? Yeah, hour and 25 from Murray, Kentucky. So they're going to make that drive on a Thursday night.
They'll be in.
They will be here. So it's going to be a very impactful game, just like how it was last year. But this year, will it happen once again? Because early on, Coach Fig and the Governors beat Belmont for the first time under the Coach Figure era. Will they get another win, and a big win at that, against Murray State? We'll have to find out on Thursday. We will talk about it later on.
And part of me really wishes that both these teams were undefeated coming into this one,
Yes.
just because the hype would be even more than what it is. But still, I think if Austin Peay were to win this game, they'd be tied with Murray after if I'm not mistaken.
It would.
So it still is all to play for, but it would have been awesome to kind of have that even greater hype with two undefeated conference teams coming in. But it's still a great game nonetheless.
Murray State on Thursday. Eastern Kentucky is another team to watch out for. They're the number 4 seed. Jamaru Brown, another scorer that can light it up. So the Governors don't have no easy games moving forward, Murray State and Eastern Kentucky. But we're going to switch things up because we're going to go to football in the NFL, because it seems like the Madden curse is finally lifted thanks to Patrick Mahomes. Patton, I know he's still somewhat sad on over there, but the Chiefs wins the Super Bowl 54 against the 49ers. Patrick Mahomes scored, and the Chiefs scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. They was down 10 midway through the fourth. I'm going to ask Patton first his thoughts on that game, Because I know he still was feeling a little shameful.
Yeah, going into the game, I wasn't really feeling that sad about it, but whenever you kind of have the coverage that 2 hour before, and I was like, man, I really love to be there, because I was about to blow the bank account. The bank account was going to be gone if the Titans were there. I was going to get there some way, somehow.
Those tickets was about $6,000
well,
at least.
If it was going to be by horseback, I was getting there. But nonetheless, to me, just what a great story that the Kansas City Chiefs have gone on, because the Titans was the last team to beat Kansas City, I believe, is either week 12 or something like that, and they haven't lost since. But the big thing for me is they've gone down in every single playoff game they had been in. You had the famous Texans 24-0, had the Titans up 10, and then once again the 49ers had them in a bit of a stranglehold as well. But just that perseverance, that when you've got a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who didn't play that great, really, to be honest, didn't have a great game at all, but you just know, I just need one throw from Patrick. And unlike, we'll probably talk about in a little bit, that Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't perform, Patrick Mahomes can perform that.
Absolutely. Well, my thoughts going into the game, usually I go with the defense. Defense wins championships. But whenever you have a guy that can go on a 51-7 run, there is no answer.
But that's the thing, though, because coming into it, the 49ers was a top 5 defense. But the Chiefs' defense was top 5 as well in the latter part of the season. So it was just like defense wins championships. But when you got a good defense and a high-powered offense, it's going to give you the edge.
Yeah, the Chiefs' defense was peaking. They peaked at the right time in the season. And then, once again, Pat Mahomes. You got a guy that can score 7 times in a row. You can't stop that. There is no answer. And then on top of that, with weapons like Kelsey, who's probably top 2 tight end in the league, definitely top 2 tight end in the league.
It's 1A, 1B.
Absolutely. And then you got Cheetah, the fastest receiver on your team. And you have a gang of other receivers on your team. Sammy Watkins and Hardman. You're not stopping it. I'm sorry. There is no answer.
And I like the word you use, peaked, because unlike a lot of teams we saw in the NFL, the Saints, you also saw the Seahawks peak a little too much. The Chiefs were kind of just figuring out what they wanted to be throughout the season. They had some trade acquisitions, Frank Clark, who turned out to be huge in that game, and also Deion Jones coming back from injury. But
the Honey Badger also was another major trade that helped them out a lot.
Got them fired up on the defensive side after they went down. So, yeah.
And just peaking, I think that specifically the defense, because I think the offense was what it was all season. There wasn't much changing to me. In terms of maybe the run game started to work a little bit more, not with LaShawn McCoy, but the defense give credit to, because I didn't see any way that they would be able to, especially after I saw in the first half they're running on him every single time, 8-9 yards a gain, and then they effectively shut that down and forced Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy, to beat him, and he couldn't do it.
I'm going to say this. When they were up 2010, they chose to – no, before halftime, right?
Yes, that was before halftime.
Before halftime, they elected to let the Chiefs run out the clock.
Yeah.
They didn't call the timeout. Jimmy Garoppolo gets the ball, throws that deep pass, which was called back, but they were trying to score then. So you're going to have to make a decision as far as people were questioning the coaching decisions. And
the first half got me, and I was so confused because I was watching it with Gabe, because right before the half, like, I understand if you're Kyle Shanahan, you wanted to play a little bit conservative because it was tied 10-10, but at least try to march down the field. And the thing was, those first 2 runs didn't go nowhere. The first pass play that you had went for 12 yards. Then it went 15, and then the big bomb, but it was an offensive pass interference. I'm going to ask y'all that as well. Would y'all have called that as a pass interference? Because me personally, I haven't seen so many times, even with Kyle Rudolph against the Saints in the playoffs.
Chose not to call it, on that situation.
What? Yeah, and I think if you're going to call that, you're going to get Travis Kelce for every single route he runs, because he just runs into the corner and just blasts him off the line of scrimmage. But I kind of saw, but in terms of, I'm in total agreement with you guys. You're already sending a message to not only your team but the opposition that we don't trust our quarterback to make the smart play, and effectively that set the tone to what you're going to see later on with what Jimmy G had to be, was to win you that game. And and the head coach for the 49ers effectively told you, we don't trust them.
Right.
Absolutely. Going out, you have to make a decision whether you're going to go out and win this game or are you going to like try and hold on to your lead.
Because you know that Patrick Mahomes can score at will.
Yeah.
So like that's why I was gonna wait. But do you blame Jimmy G or do you blame Kyle Shanahan for just blowing this game?
I blame Kyle Shanahan more than Jimmy G. I mean, everybody has their responsibility, but I honestly don't think that the Chiefs just stifled the San Francisco run game. I have no idea. They stopped them maybe a few times. Keep going to it. You still have the lead, and you can still run out the clock. I thought that it was over after Mahomes threw that interception in the fourth quarter. I just bet $20 while they were down 3. In my head, I was like, "Wow, this might be over." They put the ball in Jimmy G's hands, and he does what Jimmy G does.
And
They lost.
at some point, we're going to have to look at Shanahan here because he kind of fell into this same trap against your Patriots, Gabe. They went away from the run game specifically on that third down to where they were in field goal range instead of just kind of doing the smart thing, running the ball. Don't put Matt Ryan in a position where he gets sacked and pushed out of field goal range. Said they did the complete opposite here, where they just went away from the run game for some reason. And to me, you're going to have to start looking at, although we love these offensive masterminds, he's had 2 disaster classes in a Super Bowl to where he's effectively has thrown the game away because you've got him right where you've wanted him. That defensive line for the 49ers were starting to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, but you just threw him back out there with no rest, and effectively that's where I think the game was won and lost.
I blamed both because, yes, Kyle Shanahan was making the calls. Jimmy G didn't play his best game at all to me, but I never had faith in Jimmy G going even within the playoffs, like from the regular season to the playoffs, because what happened in the Super Bowl, I thought about it, just plain and simple. You don't have faith in Jimmy G really just throwing the football down the field, because also one thing I would say, Kyle Shanahan, I feel like in the first quarter he was doing a little bit too much. It was a lot of extra creative things and designs that he really didn't need to, and I was just like, why not just go with your regular outside zone like you've been doing all season long? And when he started doing that in the second quarter, it was working. So this was confusing. Like, what are you doing to make things so complex? And then once you get to the second half, you can't go to those creative plays anymore because you did it in the first quarter.
Often a telltale sign to me for in football teams is the trick plays. If you're coming out of the gate with the trick plays, and not just if it's one trick play, maybe, because we'll do that sometimes. But if we're struggling, we'll throw out a couple trick plays, and then usually we lose the game. Usually in games that are close, like whenever we play the Ravens, we throw out one and then hit them in the fourth quarter with something crazy. We'll throw it to Edelman throw a deep pass. But whenever you're throwing out like 3-4 of them, just like in the college game, Clemson, LSU, all they did was trick plays their first 2 possessions. And then once all your tricks out of the bag, what are you going to do?
And that's a good point because you're kind of showing your hand already that we don't necessarily trust our offense to get it done. And as you said, once you're out of trick plays, you're done. The team's already seen it, and they're not going to fall for it the second time. So, but to me, another big one for the 49ers was specifically their secondary. I didn't like how they were putting Richard Sherman on Tyreek Hill for this game, man on man. That one thing that Richard Sherman loves is getting physical, and you can't touch Tyreek Hill because he's gone you in 10 yards.
But also, like, it was times where it was soft coverage on man-to-mans against Tyreek Hill, knowing his speed. And I told Gabe, too, I was like, before the game happened, I was like, it's going to be a time where Sammy Watkins does a double move on Richard Sherman, and it's going to be a deep play. And he looked at me crazy because he was like, I was right, because it happened because – Richard Sherman, he's one of the top corners, just plain and simple. But he loves watching the quarterback. And with Patrick Mahomes, pump fake, double move, it's going to almost be there. And that's what happened. But Jimmy G, on a critical deep ball throw, to Sanders.
Oh, he was there too.
It was there. We was all waiting for that big play to happen to Jimmy G to give them momentum and shift it back.
And that could have been the Kirk Cousins moment for him, to where he had the play against the Saints where he threw it deep down the field. I think it was either to Adam Thielen or Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs.
So for that one, he just kind of, to me, gripped the ball a little tighter and threw it a little longer to make sure he didn't underthrow it. And
but that's
I
the thing.
I feel bad for Jimmy G because I think he's getting the rap that he doesn't necessarily deserve, because to me, the 49ers weren't anywhere near where they are right now without a quarterback like Jimmy G who can manage a game as good as anyone. I don't think if you put him in other systems like the Chiefs, I don't think he succeeds as much as he does with the 49ers. But I feel bad for him, but that's just a moment to where he could have kind of silenced the haters coming into this game to where they weren't giving him the respect, and in the end, you could say rightfully so.
Because that was one of the few times where they was able to go over the top against the Chiefs secondary, and that could have been pivotal. That was a pivotal moment, just a yard too far out, cost them. And then they took critical sacks when he didn't need to late in that fourth quarter. So that's why I was like, I got to blame both, because sometimes Kyle Shanahan makes the right play, and if it takes too long, what a quarterback is supposed to do? A QB coach will immediately say, throw the ball away. What Aaron Rodgers does, whenever in doubt,
Yeah.
I'm going to just throw it away.
Yep.
That's why his completion percentage is so bad, because half the time it's incomplete. It's him throwing the ball away, but that's what Jimmy G didn't do.
And whenever you're in big games, that's the answer. You have to make the play, and that's the difference between your superstars and the forgettables or memorable honorable mentions, I'll say.
But
that's the difference between superstars and honorable mentions.
But if you look at the contract for Jimmy G, he's getting paid
like a superstar.
Exactly.
So
and you got to make those plays.
And for you, Marcus, you're kind of right. He's being paid to make that throw, and he didn't make it at the end of the day, which is going to haunt him. Even though he's got a ring, he didn't win himself. It was with Tom Brady and company.
Tom Brady won that ring.
Yep.
I think he got two of them, matter of fact.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, he does.
Yep.
That was a
You're
Tom,
welcome.
That is Tom
You're
Brady.
welcome, Jimmy G.
Those are Tom Brady rings. We could call him a Super Bowl champ, but it was as a backup quarterback. But we're going to switch things up because we haven't done this sport on the show yet. But UFC.
Yeah.
Because John Jones had a fight, and then we're going to talk about Conor McGregor, because I know my good buddy over here is a big Conor McGregor fan.
Yep.
But John Jones fought against Reyes and won unanimous decision. I'm going to ask you guys, did y'all think it was supposed to be unanimous, or was it supposed to be split, or how? Your thoughts?
Well, in my opinion, Reyes, in many people's opinion, I'd say Reyes won the first 3 rounds. John did finish out the last 2 very strong, putting a lot of pressure on Reyes, and he got a couple takedowns. But as Reyes said, rightfully said, he didn't do any damage, but taking you down does count.
That's the point. It's the points. That's what it was.
Absolutely. And one thing Joe Rogan, he says the system is flawed, how they score it, and I agree. It's a completely different sport than boxing. I don't even know why they go by that. And then also Rogan went off on whatever judge there was who scored it.
49-46.
Yeah, awful.
4-1 Jones. This same judge that scored this one, Joe Rogan, he's a great guy, great podcast. We strive to be like him one day. But he was looking at this specific judge in one of these matches, and he wasn't even looking up for half a round. Not for the John Jones fight, but for a fight previously in that same main event. So just I think whenever I was watching the fight and they read the score out 49-46, I'm like, well, that's Jones' loss for sure. But whenever they said unanimous decision and 49-46, I was like, there's no way John Jones can win this. And I'm not necessarily a John Jones fan, but for the sport of UFC, I wanted John Jones to win that fight convincingly for him to move up in the heavyweight division.
That's the thing, though. Everybody coming into it, it's like John Jones can knock this guy out. I mean, this was the first time that you actually saw John Jones look somewhat mortal.
Yeah, challenged.
Yeah.
Actually challenged. Because in the Gustafsson fight, they present a challenge, and also his last fight against Santos, they provided a challenge, but not like Reyes. Reyes actually put some pressure on
Because
him.
those first two rounds, I thought Reyes
Yeah.
and that 48-47, that's what I was thinking it was going to be. But I thought one of them was actually going to say Reyes and not all Jones. So I thought Jones might was going to get it split decision-wise. But I don't know about that unanimous decision.
And if we're really looking at these last recent fights that Jones has had, he hasn't really finished anyone in quite some time. I think 7 out of the last 8 he hasn't finished. It's all gone to the scorecard, which a big thing that a lot of people are saying is this picogram situation that he's got with his drug testing. He's not getting popped positive anymore. And these previous performances where he was putting on great fights, great finishes, a lot of it is put into question whether he was completely clean for those fights with performance-enhancing drugs, which at this point you can start to ask because he is as clean as he's ever been, and he's not exactly looking the best he's looked.
In my opinion, I don't think that he feels like there's anyone on his level. I think John Jones feels like he's John Jones and everybody else is here. And for a long time, it kind of was. I mean, he was murking people like that were legends. And then once all of a sudden he's up here, he's partying a week before a fight. He's not training. He's not taking these guys seriously. Even in the Reyes fight, he said, man, you surprised the heck out of me. I just don't think that he's nutting up to, like, fight somebody. So I feel like he just needs somebody that he actually, like, dislikes, like Cormier.
Yeah, and that's
the one person that fight frustrated me so much. I would have a rant about that because Cormier is a on the ground fighter, but you want to box John Jones. Why?
It's
why?
pride.
It didn't make
pride.
It didn't make sense. But even if the takedown defense was there, that's your strong suit. Keep going to it. Don't let your pride get in the way and your ego get in the way. He's one of the best boxers in UFC.
Well, we're about to talk about another fighter who said that they wanted to knock out somebody who's one of the best, has the best hands in the UFC, Mr. Cerrone.
Yeah, and I think that was foolish from the very get-go for Cowboy because the only way Conor has really been hurt has been on the ground.
Yes. And
Conor, he is, I think, the best striker for his weight class until you get up to the heavyweights because just the power that Ngannou has and Derek Lewis, who we also saw on this card, is a little bit different. But in terms of just pure striking, you had a guy like Conor McGregor go to the best boxer I think we've ever seen in Floyd Mayweather and hang in there. He got shots in on Floyd Mayweather, the best boxer we've ever seen, and he didn't get necessarily embarrassed. But for me, Cowboy, he just kind of had the wrong game plan. But then again, the timing that Conor McGregor had, there's no point to put in a game plan. When you only last under a minute, there's not much that you can apply to your game plan. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I just loved what Conor did. He took care of business, and he kind of set the UFC world back on fire.
Conor McGregor, I didn't see enough. I'm just being honest.
Enough?
I didn't see enough. It was against Cowboy. Like, also, that's a older Cerrone as well. I mean,
and I would agree, but how quickly he finished him off. He did it with 3 of these shoulder little.
And also, that's the thing because those shoulder thrusts, Cerrone wasn't prepared for.
We never seen that. I watch a lot of UFC fights.
That.
I've never seen that done before.
That's why Cerrone was like, after the match was over, he was like, he thought it was an accident.
Yeah, it was
and
just
then he kept going with it. He was like,
he broke his nose before he even laid a glove on him with those shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So like, that's why I say I can't really just say I saw enough. That's why I agree with Stephen A. I was like, I just didn't see enough because when he go against Masvidal, you're gonna have to show me a little bit more than those shoulder thrusts. If you got to go against Khabib again, those shoulder thrusts, that might not be working enough for me. I got to see more. I got to see more than just that under a minute against
Conor just showed his creativity in that fight, coming up with those shoulder thrusts just out of nowhere. I don't think that he planned that, or maybe he did plan that.
Yeah, they've kind of come out and said that they've kind of had that worked, but I don't know if they necessarily meant for it to do as much damage as it ended up doing.
That's why it's like I'm not so now. I'm gonna ask you which route should Conor go? Should he go the Khabib 2 fight? Should he go against Nate Masvidal, or should he go get that money with Floyd again?
Well, in this, in UFC terms, it just depends on a lot of different things. We already have a Khabib Tony Ferguson fight lined up, so
Yes.
it depends. Yes.
Yes.
Oh Lord. Well,
Yes.
well, let's please nothing happen.
Yeah,
I don't want no injuries.
yeah,
I don't
no
want
inju-
nothing.
yes.
I want to see Khabib go against Tony Ferguson, the two wildest
We
men
need it.
in the UFC, fight each other. It's almost going to want to be to the death. I don't care.
We need it.
I want it to go 10 rounds instead of 5.
We need it. So it depends on what happens with that fight. Also Masvidal, and it depends on whether Masvidal either fights Conor or does he fight Usman. So that depends
That is true.
if that happens, or does Conor go and fight Usman for a title contention. So
I think Masvidal is higher up than Conor.
of course,
right now,
as he
so
should be. So it just depends on how Dana and his committee, however they want to
They love Conor.
put
though.
it out. Yeah, of course they
as
love
as
Conor.
they should, because
Mhm.
let's
Cash
not
cow.
let's not dance around here. This Connor and, as you call it, the old Cowboy Cerrone fight, they got 1 million new subscribers for ESPN Plus just for that fight on the night. 1 million of them. So I don't think Connor he draws more than anyone in the sport, and I don't think
yeah.
there's any doubt about it. But in terms of your question, I would wait and see what happens with this Tony Ferguson and Khabib fight, because this fight has been scheduled numerous times and it's been called off numerous times. So if I'm Connor, I'm waiting for one of these guys to pull out, because it wouldn't surprise me if Tony trips over a cord again and we have to wait another year for this fight. But I'm waiting for those two. But if in terms of the weight class he's at right now, I'm not going anywhere near Kamaru Usman, because he is too big for Conor in terms of wrestling and striking. But Masvidal, I'd love to see that just as a fight fan.
I agree. I would love to see
I
those
wanna-
guys
I would
duke
wanna
it out.
I would want to see Masvidal versus Conor. But if Conor is the kind of man that I know, go get that money with Floyd.
No.
Go
No,
get that $100 million
The
again.
thing is, I think that he has enough money. We see that he loves the sport. He came back to UFC. That dude didn't have to do anything else for the rest of his life, and he'd be fine.
Get that. Hey, you love your money. Go get that $100 million.
No, his money is fine. He's got this.
Now you know he had those legal troubles. Go get that money.
Now he's got his whiskey that's getting a lot of money
Yeah.
right now. I don't think he needs any of this more gimmick stuff. I've heard this
Once again.
Manny Pacquiao nonsense.
Oh,
Don't
No,
you
don't worry
dare.
about Manny. Don't
you
worry about
dare.
Manny. Fight Floyd for $150 million.
So we can see another Floyd
Hey, once again,
masterclass.
Do you want $150 million, Gabriel Jones?
I
off
want-
of guaranteed money.
He already has the millions. I
Yeah,
think he wants legacy. I think that he wants legacy
the
now.
legacy.
He'll be the best UFC.
And you kind of saw what happened the last time he did this. He went in and fought Khabib immediately after this boxing match, and he got smoked. He was out of kind of quote unquote shape for UFC. He was in rust. If I'm Conor, I'm not going anywhere near the boxing game, because I'm not getting more than $150 million, but I'm not getting that much less with the UFC now. Just in terms of this new ESPN deal, he's getting more money than he ever would have until this new ESPN
What is it,
deal.
$30 million at most now?
No, he got $80 million with
got
this
80?
last fight
Holy
with
smoke.
Cowboy. So just think of the numbers he would get with Masvidal or Khabib too. So I don't.
He got $80 million? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
It's this new ESPN deal that it's working good for the fighters and obviously for Dana White. He
and
loves
that's
it.
awesome. I love that the fighters are actually getting
Money.
a piece of the pie. You know,
They getting that bank. Well, if he's getting $80 million, then fight Masvidal. Then I didn't know. I
love
was making 150 compared to 30. I'm gonna take that 150. But if it was 80 million, like Patton said, I have my faith in Patton. That report was correct. If you got the 80 million, then just go fight Masvidal, because that might be $100 million on that fight just alone.
heck yeah. One fight I am looking forward to seeing. I really hope that Israel Adesanya. I hope he gets past Romero in this fight.
Yeah.
And they've been chirping. Him and John Jones have been chirping a lot. So that's a
been
fight that
beefing for-
I want to see.
They've been beefing for like a year and a half, it seems like.
Mhm.
They've been beefing for quite some time. But both of them keep winning, so
Indeed. I'm ready to see it.
And that's the super fight that John Jones kind of wants. Although I do think this Reyes, I think there's going to be a Reyes and Jones 2
yeah.
fight, but I think he's kind of finished with some of these kind of young, up-and-coming light heavyweight guys. I think he either wants the heavyweight fights with Ngannou, another Cormier possibly, or Stipe.
I don't think Cormier is coming back.
But I think this Israel Adesanya, I think that's as big of a money fight as you could ask for.
Absolutely.
That was a great talk. We gotta also we're gonna talk about that Tyson Wilder Fury fight that's coming out on the 22nd. We gotta go see that. But we're gonna switch it over to now to the NBA.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of stuff that happened in these past few weeks. You know what? Let's go ahead and talk about this trades and the trade deadline, because just being honest, it was somewhat ridiculous. Let's talk about that first, Patton, because you're Cavs.
Yep.
And the Cavs traded for Andre Drummond, and they gave up Brandon Knight,
Trash.
John Henson,
Trash.
and a 2023 second-round pick. 2023. Pure robbery. That's all I got to say.
We'll be NBA champions by 2023, so that pick won't mean very much, if at all. But in all seriousness, I was kind of surprised. I was very, very surprised. I was actually working with a project, and I was kind of got 3 or 4 texts from friends saying Drummond to the Cavs. I'm like a drumstick. Like I don't know about Andre Drummond here, but I've seen him just abuse the Cavs for years now. But this is a weird trade because, as you were seeing here, you just said, Marcus, Cavs didn't give that much up, and you're telling me that a team like the Clippers or the Lakers or the Nuggets, or not the Nuggets obviously have Jokic, but numerous other teams that can use a big man, you're not even giving that much up. I don't know why.
The Blazers?
Right. I don't know why necessarily you saw the Pistons give him away for nothing. Coming out now, they're afraid that he was going to opt in to a deal, so they didn't want to pay him. I believe it's $27 million next year. And for a team like the Cavs, who are just hoping to get something lightning in a bottle and get something out of it, a good trade for the Cavs, but for the Pistons, just a little weird for me.
It just seemed like any of us three could have been in the GM spot,
right? Yeah,
and would have did a better trade than that.
At least
I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't even know that Brandon Knight and John Henson was on the Cavs.
That is a fact. I haven't heard the name John Henson in at least 2 years. I haven't heard the name Brandon Knight in at least like 3.
Yeah, we got Matthew Dellavedova and John Henson in a trade with the Bucks last season.
I knew that he was on the Bucks, but I didn't.
Yeah,
that's the thing. They was barely getting minutes.
Yeah.
They wasn't giving any minutes on the Cavs. A losing Sorry, Patton, but a losing Cavs team, and you're gonna trade for your superstar.
Hey, I don't know if Adam Silver listened to this, but I think they did some under the table stuff. Something smelled fishy.
If he vetoed David Stern vetoing that
Chris Paul
deal,
I would have vetoed that one immediately.
Man, it's like you got nothing.
But for the Cavs, it's a zero-risk signing. I believe he's going to opt in because at that contract, I don't think he's going to get that anywhere else. So he's going to opt in next season. You get a chance to get, hopefully, if the NBA lottery doesn't screw us out of a top 5 pick, you're going to have a top 5 pick this year, along with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, starting to kind of build a bit of a chemistry. Who knows what happens? If he walks, he walks. You gave away nothing for him. Players on higher contracts with John Henson and Brandon Knight who don't deserve that money. So for me, it's kind of weird I'm saying this, a good deal from the Cavaliers front office led by Kobe Altman.
That was a good deal if you are the Cavs, a dumb trade if you are the Pistons. But the Warriors, they sent D'Lo to Minnesota. They sent D'Angelo Russell, Jacob Evans, and Amari Spellman, and got Andrew Wiggins, a 2021 top 3 protected first-round pick, and a 21 second-round pick. That was a trade that everybody thought that was going to happen. Ended up happening. I think the Warriors are going to be loaded next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Warriors will be loaded next year as far as the picks that they get from being low and then getting Steph and Clay to return. I think this changes nothing for either team. I think the Warriors were going to be great next year no matter what, and I think the Wolves are going to be decent no matter what. D. Russell, he's not locking anybody down. Andrew Wiggins obviously didn't turn into Maple Jordan. So I think both teams will probably be in the same position as they are now.
To me, a little bit of a weird one for the Warriors. I get that they were never really going to keep D'Angelo Russell because of the Steph and Clay partnership. You weren't going to have three guards out on the floor. You just get dominated down low by these big teams in the West. But to me, I would rather have more picks than Andrew Wiggins, because Wiggins, you kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get an athletic guy who can shoot every now and then. But to me, if I'm the Warriors, I'd rather have the cap space for next year's free agent class or the year after, who's going to have LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard. You're also going to have a Giannis deal that possibly should be expiring soon. So to me, I would have rather had the flexibility.
But that's the thing, though. They could have a 4 under first-round pick in 2021.
Yeah.
And do you think the Minnesota is going to be good next year? No.
Oh, once again, they will not
that
be
means,
good.
that can be another lottery pick
Indeed.
in 2021 when they are winning games next year. So I think that could be been a steal for the Warriors.
Everybody was angry when Joe Lacob said that they were light years ahead of everybody, and dude, they're still churning out great moves.
Now Miami, they had sent James Johnson, Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters. That's a few of our friends' favorite. And
Dion haters.
And Gorgie Jang to the Grizzlies for Jay Crowder, Iggy, and Solomon Hill. But James Johnson ends up traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Iggy finally got a good playoff contention team that got approved. I think it was a nice move for both teams. And they got really just the same players, honestly.
I agree. I think it was a good move for the Miami Heat as far as getting some more championship pedigree into your team. I don't think they have anyone on that team that has made a finals yet, but we'll see how far that goes. It's a good young team. They're spry. They're deep. So I'm excited to see how far they go in the playoffs. And as far as Memphis, I think they're just happy to have, something in return for a player that you're paying every year.
Iggy is, I believe Iggy is one of the only ones that has been to the finals.
I'm pretty sure he's probably the only player on that team that's been to the finals. Yeah,
as I recollect through it, I believe that's right. That's very good, but also it increased their depth, and
absolutely,
it's gonna be very dangerous in the East. Because the only teams you got to really look out for right now is Toronto and the Bucks.
And the Celtics, I would say. I'm putting the Celtics in there.
And you can put the Celtics there, but those are the top two where you would be like, they're hooping. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But also, I want to talk about this Rockets trade. Robert Covington to the Rockets, and they gave up Dene and Clint Capella to the Hawks. They had got Jordan Bell in that trade as well, but they sent Jordan Bell to Memphis.
Yep.
Positionless basketball for the Houston Rockets is up in the air. Like, I had people talking to me like, yo, this is going to be the new wave. This is it. Positionless basketball is going to be the future. And it's just like, guys, you got to remember, there are 7-footers, 7'2", 7'3", big men in the NBA right now and moving forward. They going to dominate the Rockets.
Maybe. First game that we got to see was Rockets versus Lakers. Conventional wisdom says feed AD 50 times. I want him to shoot 50 shots from 2 feet away.
But that's the Lakers'
just dunk
fault.
On him.
That's the Lakers' fault.
I agree. But as far as the Rockets go, I think that their problem, obviously they have to guard them, but other teams have to guard the Rockets as well. And on nights where they're just lights out from 3, I don't think it's going to be much stopping it. And also, if they're missing threes, it'll be long rebounds, so your guards can grab those rebounds. But if they go cold like they did, missing 27 threes in a row against the Warriors in the playoffs 2 years ago, you have no chance. If you have an off night, you have no chance.
They beat the Lakers the first night.
Yeah, they won that game.
And then the next night, they lost to the Suns, and Kelly Oubre dropped 39 points.
And that's what happens, and that's what they're going to live and die on. I think I heard from Steve Nash was on a podcast, and I think he had talks with D'Antoni. He said if he knew what the game was going to look like now, he would have doubled down on the Nash team, made them even smaller. So that's kind of what he's replicating with this Rockets team. Insert James Harden in the Nash spot. We'll see how it works out.
I'm not a big fan of it, mostly because you're playing in a conference like the West, where you've got the Portland Trail Blazers, where they've got Hassan Whiteside. You've also got the Denver Nuggets with Jokic, and you've also got the Utah Jazz with Rudy Gobert. Those are really the top three of the top 5 centers, I'd say, in the NBA, and you're without a doubt going to play at least one of them in the playoffs.
Yeah, did you say the Clippers as well?
And the Clippers.
You got to think about Montrezl Harrell.
Yep.
He's going to be all over. You're telling me that
They
PJ
won't be
Tucker-
able to stop them rolling to the rim, but once again, they're going to have to guard them. But yes, I agree. Almost all the playoff teams have somebody big on the inside that they're going to have. PJ Tucker's going to have a lot of long nights in the playoffs. I'll say that.
And my only worry is that we keep talking about, hey, maybe the possibility they do go cold. We've seen them go cold in every single conference finals they've played in.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a game where they go cold, 2 or 3 games where they go cold in. So this notion that they're going to not go cold in some of these games, they do it every year. And they always, you hate to say choke, but I think James Harden is going to have a lot to answer for this year because he consistently keeps kind of doing this.
James hasn't been playing well at all this year. His shooting numbers have dropped. His numbers have dropped, and he's not even looking in the MVP race really right now. Actually, that brings us together, brings things together a little bit, a segue, because we had our NBA predictions. We had looked them up and everything. And the MVP race right now, it's Giannis.
Giannis is the only answer right now. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I agree. And the only way LeBron would get into it is if Anthony Davis wasn't on the team, because I think if Anthony Davis wasn't there, LeBron and Giannis's numbers would be pretty similar. But for LeBron, he doesn't care about this this Mickey Mouse trophy. He wants.
No, he will care. I mean, it adds
He
more
care-
to it. It will add more to that resume of his.
He
'Cause
cares, but
he's trying to chase that ghost in Chicago.
My only rebuttal to that is if he wanted this so much, he wouldn't have got Anthony Davis in this summer. He wouldn't have begged for him. He would have just had a lot of spot-up shooters, a lot of role players, but he wanted that other superstar because he knows in June, in April as well, it's hard to win by yourself. And to me, that's why he's got AD here, is not to win the MVP trophy, but to win the finals, because that's the biggest knock against LeBron. It's not that he can't carry teams. It's not he can't carry teams to victories in the finals. So for me, without a doubt, Giannis, but the same could be said for LeBron if he didn't have another player kind of like him.
You got to watch out for Jokic because the Nuggets are at the number 2 spot. They're only 3 games back.
And Damian Lillard as well, just with the past couple months
if we
he's
can make
had.
the playoffs.
That's the thing, though. Damian Lillard, they still in the 9th spot. You can't give credit
To me, if he continues this pace that he's at right now, I think in the month of January he was averaging like 45 points, which is just stupid numbers to think of. But if he can do that and get into the playoffs, because ultimately playoffs I don't think really take much difference in it. All the voting is done after right before the playoffs begin. So I think if they could solidify a spot into the playoffs, he's got a bit of a chance.
I agree.
Damian Lillard has put on a show. It's just that they're not going to show sympathy on just because he's an 8th seed. A lot of times, as you see it now, they're going to look at the wins too. The wins are going to play a part. Even
Absolutely.
though Dame has had to do a lot. Well, I'm not putting any disrespect on Damian Lillard because he didn't have to go through a lot with a lot of injuries on this Portland team. Where the other night against Utah, he only had 7 players on the roster playing.
Or was robbed of a win as well.
That goaltending costed them.
Well, of a chance to be in the game.
The goaltending costed them, but Giannis on the other side only has 7 losses. LeBron in the West still dominating. Jokic still only 3 games back, so it's not a far reach. The Clippers, they're still not far away. They're only 3 games back as well from the Lakers, so anything is possible going as All-Star break is about to happen. Anything can shift.
And I was surprised that Portland didn't really make any moves in the trade deadline for a team that's already kind of struggling, that they didn't.
They couldn't. A
Well,
lot of their players are injured.
Absolutely. We have a lot of injured. I say we, like I'm a pseudo Portland fan, guys. I root for the Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard's my guy. We have been dealing with a lot of injuries this year, and we have a lot of contracts that we have to manage.
Who is you
going to
try to trade?
Well, I think there's a lot of buyout options right now, specifically with the Cavaliers. You've got Tristan Thompson, and then there's other guys.
Nurkic about to come back soon.
Yeah, but how long is he going to take? You don't have time for a guy that has been out with a horrific injury to kind of slowly integrate. You got to win now.
And you also got Hassan Whiteside, who's been playing really well.
Yeah, but I
need
think,
a forward. That's the thing. You need a forward.
And I think Tristan can start to do that because watching some of these games, he's starting to extend his range.
Really? Tristan Thompson.
Yeah, he's like 4 of 6 from the three-point line this year. A lot better than Ben Simmons.
But yeah, let's just move forward because
Don't hate here.
Most improved. I had Terry Rozier, but it seemed like his partner Devontae Graham might take it before Terry Rozier. Only averaging 4 points last year. Graham boosted it up to 18. But it's also multiple people has improved their games throughout the league. Luka, Trae Young, Bam Adebayo.
Bam.
It's been quite really good to see a lot of players improving not only their scoring but everything.
Absolutely. I love the league is in a great place as far as talent right now. There are some talks of expansion, and I think that will water down the talent a little bit. But I think that we're getting a lot of players. We're watching guys from high school coming up. So there's a lot of talent in the league as far as our rookies right now. Ja Morant, Zion, both playing fantastic. A lot of talent in the league. I love it.
Ja for Rookie of the Year.
I agree. That was my pick.
I really want Ja to win it, but Zion has been.
You just can't give it. I refuse to have this notion that Zion can win it because he's been out for half the year, and of course he's going to have these good games now because he's fresh. He's fresh as anyone in the NBA, and if you don't give it to Ja because he slowly starts to kind of slack off on the hype he had early on, that's because he's played a full 82-game season.
He just got his first triple-double against the Wizards.
Yeah.
He was dominating there. He hit some clutch jumpers. 6th man of the year. Who did you guys have? Because I had Spencer Dinwiddie, but
I had Lou or Spencer.
But Spencer has played so many games starting because Kyrie has only played 20 games as a Nets.
Yeah, we definitely have to talk about the Nets situation in possibly another podcast, but I'm interested to see what they do. As far as Coach of the Year, who do y'all think? I had Mike Malone because I thought that they would get the number 1 seed, the Nuggets.
I did too, but
I'm going Eric Spoelstra. His work with the Heat this year has been incredible. In terms of a team that was in the lottery last year, and right now he's in the top half of the East right now. That's a dark horse guy that probably won't win it, but I've been really impressed with his moves this year.
I'm going to go with Nick Nurse and the Raptors.
Nurse, yeah.
Because the Raptors are number 2 right now, and I picked them in a preseason at number 8.
I had him at 7.
But they are hooping. Siakam, Kyle Lowry. People hated that Kyle Lowry was an all-star, but he's been hooping like he's an all-star. Siakam is putting up MVP numbers. It's just.
And a lot of people got onto the Toronto Raptors after they let go of Dwayne Casey, and right now that's looking like a masterclass move because you had Dwayne Casey not doing as much with a better team with DeRozan, and now they don't have DeRozan. They only got Siakam and Kyle Lowry. I thought it's been really good to watch from them.
Tough for DeMar DeRozan. Maybe you would have saw his numbers increase and a little bit different if he had Nick Nurse there at the coaching spot, because the offense a lot different now between Nick Nurse and Dwayne Casey. It was a lot of stagnant and just DeMar do his own thing.
It's more shooting threes now.
Yeah, I was going to say, DeMar's his strength is not in shooting threes, nor is it in defense, and that does not make for championships, I would say, in this league.
That is true. The league now is just jack up threes nonstop. Let's shoot 50 threes, but hopefully that can change in playoff time. But we never know. But that is all the time we have here on today. We are stationed at WAPX-FM, Clarksville's 91.9, and also at YouTube at APSU-TV. This is Just Talking Sports. My name is Marcus Modey. Gabe Jones, Patton Cook. We are out.